welcome to the June 14th meeting of the Milford Finance Committee. We'll start off, we have our quorum, and we'll start off with the reading of the minutes from May 10th. Does anybody have comments? Motion? Mike Nicholson, second. Carly, all in favor of accepting the minutes as published? Done. Okay. I was expecting the planning board to come in and give their proposal for town report, town plan. I don't see him here, so we'll defer that. Subcommittee reports. We can start with the Capitol. We have had some surprises to the tune of $500,000-$600,000 of badly needed upgrades to the dispatch system and the phone system. Finance Committee went through it.
That's police or fire?
Yes,
Both?
yes. Police, fire, and town hall.
Oh, okay.
They showed us the system that Paul Revere put in, and it's worked since then. But right now, they're running into issues because all the new components are fiber-based, and we have all components based on copper wire. So that was a surprise, but it made sense. It's something we have to do. Now, the issue that's going to come up is that's $500,000, $600,000 of unexpected expense, so we're going to have to be careful. We're not sure. It looks pretty good for free cash, but we're not sure what the estimate will be. So come the fall, we're going to have to be really careful, especially if we have any other surprises.
Okay.
Tonight, we're going to ask for an update on the geriatric authority, because if they need more money, we've got to be careful. We're already, with this extra these extra requests, if it's $3 million, we're going to be real tight at free cash. Should be, hopefully, be better, but we got to be careful.
Question before you move on with respect to the police, fire, and town hall. I remember years ago when we attempted to tie them all in electronically with a digital telephone system, and we did not tie in, to the best of my recollection, the senior center or the highway department. Is this the time now,
This is the
maybe, to
time-
do it right?
This is the time when we're going to tie everybody in.
Okay, good.
Because one of the issues is that right now, the way the system is configured, when the town hall has a problem, it shuts everybody down. Not,
Is that bad?
apparently, if you want to make phone calls, it's not good. The way it's going to be set up now, it was explained to us, is that each individual center will be independent. So town hall can go down, and library.
Yeah, that
and-
just makes sense. I mean, yeah.
You know, and the phones, apparently, for us to go through a new phone system would be major expense, because there's a lot more phones in this town than we thought. Numbers
That we're paying for.
that we own,
Are they utilized?
that we'd have to go through. But realistically, you know what would happen is the minute you cut them off and say you need a new phone system, we'd have to buy all new phones at $200-300
I don't want to do that.
a throw.
We don't do that.
So, other than that, most of the capital is coming in exactly where we expected. Fire has one, well, their call-out system is part of this package. We'll get to go over in detail every item. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so, but I wasn't at the last meeting.
The only thing that I'm thinking of is the truck, but that might not be, I don't remember the timing, I'm sorry. But I like the project, is why I'm bringing it up. I might be off by a year, so I apologize. Do you remember when that was?
The big truck is next year.
The pickup truck?
Oh, the pickup truck. There was one truck,
Yeah.
not truck,
Well, the reason I like the
the
project.
SUV.
Yeah, the reason I
like.
like the project, though, is because they have, it's a pickup truck that can do some, obviously some support and run around for, a lot of types of emergencies where you don't need a full fire truck on site, and it's getting older, and, the miles are up, it's an aggressive kind of use. So the plan is to get another one of those and keep this one as a backup. But you like that, I like that, because you're not putting million-dollar trucks on the road for every time you do maintenance on this thing, and every time there's
That's a
something to
medical
do.
response
Yeah.
truck.
And then you think to yourself, like, it makes sense to have a few cheaper assets that can respond quickly, that you're not putting your most expensive vehicles on the road. You're spending a little bit of money, but I'm sure we're going to save a bunch of money down the road with that.
Well, I mean, if we can extend the life of engine one,
Yeah.
and what they told us was, before it used to be the latter one was 1.1 million the last time we bought.
That's engine one.
And engine one was 650. They estimate engine one at 900 now.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, but still,
Yeah.
what Brent is bringing up is the more we can take the demand off engine one, the longer it'll last.
Okay.
And putting a $70,000 first response vehicle under the main load versus a $900,000 vehicle makes all the sense in the world. I asked,
They don't dispatch engine one for medical emergencies.
sometimes they do.
I know they do for motor vehicle accidents, which makes 100% sense, but I didn't think they did for medical.
I think what happens is there's a second call, or there's times when, I'm calling it a pickup truck, I don't know.
I know what you mean.
But I think when that yellow pickup truck
Yeah,
has any maintenance going on, has anything else going on, and the call volume is obviously going up every
Okay, so
year.
you're saying then engine one goes.
That becomes
Got
the
it.
backup, you have a very expensive backup plan.
Got it.
And it has to go with a full crew.
Gotcha.
Because I asked once why they roll a whole crew when they don't need it, and the logical answer just hit me when they explained it, that if they send half a crew, well, then if they get another call, they can't go directly to the second call. They'd have to come back to the firehouse, pick up the rest of their crew and go.
So the plan is to get a
A rescue vehicle.
two rescue vehicles then?
Well, the one that's there would be a backup.
Okay.
Because apparently it's not where it should be to be the main responder and take on the load, the main load,
Uh-huh.
but as a backup. So when the first one is in maintenance or off doing something, it could serve as a backup.
Okay, thank you.
That was really it for capital. The rest seemed to be on track. Oh, one new thing came up from the assessors. They asked for a vehicle. Apparently, we've been asking our employees to use their own personal vehicles to go out and do assessment. And that's unsettling for a couple reasons. One, liability. They're out doing town business with their personal cars. Two, a lot of towns around supply assessor vehicles. So when we've made offers to people, they've turned us down because they don't want to sacrifice their own cars. Even though we pay a mileage, a lot of people don't like using their own cars, and it gives the wrong image. I mean, what came up was they said a lot of times they show up, and I remember when the assessor showed up at my house, my mother met him with a broom. She had no idea who these people were, but since I wasn't home, she wasn't letting them in the door. And they explained that this is more common than not because they don't have uniforms, which they agreed to go
Well,
buy
that
shirts.
might help too,
Yeah, well, I said,
or an ID.
well, the problem is when you flash an ID, anybody can make one. You know, everybody has Milford Town shirts. That's an official Milford Town employee that needs it. So their management agreed to go buy shirts. And we agreed to bring to the FinCom a favorable recommendation of one car.
Electric?
Didn't go into that deep.
No place to charge it, yeah.
I don't know what the practicality of an electric vehicle is at this point.
Okay.
But when they come for the town meeting, we'll tell them to have that as something they've checked out.
Or hybrid.
Again, we'll ask them to check both sides.
Okay.
Any other subcommittee reports?
David? I can give an update on Countryside. I know you
That would be
I
good.
second the motion for Dave Levine as chairman.
So, I'll talk about Countryside to give an update. I'd say the situation is largely unchanged. I mean, when you look at where we're in this place where we're still spending more money every month than what comes in. There's hope for next year that there's a tax credit for employee retention tax credit that could carry a lot of next year, depending on how successful we are in that application, which Zach felt pretty positive about when we had our subcommittee meeting, but I don't have an update. I was hoping he could speak to it tonight. But as you look at, when that money would come, if you look at that and say, it feels like the cash would probably get us deep into this year. You feel good about that, but then you say to yourself, well, we don't know when that employee retention tax credit, I want to get the right name of this, when that would come. And you say there's probably a prospect of some money needed to gap that time period. This is me telling you that. I don't have the board telling me that. I'm just using common sense and looking at this. When you look at the situation, and I see most of the subcommittees here, so we've met with them pretty regularly. We're due to set up a meeting, or I'm due to set up a meeting for us to meet with them in July again. You look at the situation, and it's expenses obviously outweigh the income. The last couple of months, we've lost about $220,000 pretty consistently. It's a little worse than our normal range. The more recent range has been probably more in that like 180 kind of range. The census numbers are a little softer. The hospital's not as busy. The patient bed days are a little softer than they were 3-4 months ago. So it kind of makes sense if you don't have the patients that you don't have the cash that you did. But you're in a situation where, externalities are largely at play here. Meaning, what is legislation going to do to see if they can, help this industry? I don't think there's anything that we're going to do that's going to dramatically change a $200,000 loss as on an operating basis on a monthly basis. You look at that and say, I don't know operationally what we could do that would just completely end that. I mean, that's a significant material loss. We've talked about it basically every month, and the answers and the explanation is basically the same every month. I just probably changed the order of the way I describe it, but it's the same situation every single month. And I think what we need to do is spend time again in July, see what the developments are for the next steps from their perspective, because I think we definitely need to continue to encourage them to think about next steps. I of the personal opinion that it would be really great if we had plans in place before we just run out of cash again. I feel like if you think about the steps that we've been talking about as a subcommittee to try to say, how do we make sure we don't have a gun to our head at that next town meeting? I feel like the meeting that we have in front of us in July is probably an important meeting to try to accomplish something there, if it's possible. But you think about all the conversations we've had, I would say you can see the pattern. You don't see a change. You don't see that the cash flow is getting better. You don't see that the losses are getting smaller. I wouldn't expect next month to be different than this month. I mean, there's no reason to expect it to be different. I don't think there's anything that we can do that makes it significantly different. I know the boards, and when we meet with them, they're highly engaged, highly motivated. They've got a new director. They're trying to bring new ideas. They're trying to do everything they can. I look at it and say I encourage them to do all those new ideas they can. But as a financial professional, I'm looking at this and saying I think this is our run rate right now. I'd love to say that I could see something that was going to change it rapidly, but I'm not aware of anything like that. Anybody in the subcommittee members that want to add? Or?
I think at the July meeting, we need to talk about how many months of cash they have.
Sure.
And whether we want to encourage a sale process before that cash runs out, or if we're going to be looking at potentially borrowing against a future credit that I doubt they will have before they run out of cash. So I think those are decisions that we're going to have to start thinking about making in July, because we can't force them to sell, but we do ultimately have a vote on whether we're going to approve further financing, and we've already made some overtures with them on that at the last meeting, and I think we need to revisit that in July. And, if I could, that brings me to one other broader comment. Brant and I have talked in the past about, well, we don't really talk a lot about multi-year planning here, about what's really going to be coming down the road and what does our budget look like. And we talk a lot about $5 million of excess levy capacity. But what struck me about Al's presentation at the town meeting is he's talking about the new high school and that potentially being $7 million of debt service. So in my mind, unless Paul and his group tells me there's some meaningful debt service falling off the debt service chart, in my mind, we're not $5 million in excess capacity right now. We're at a $2 million Prop 2.5 override. And even if we reduce expenses by $2 million and we chew up that $5 million in excess levy capacity, that's going to increase everyone's tax bill in this town by what, $400?
It's $80 a million.
$80 a million. So that's a $400 tax hike if we reduce expenses by $2 million. So it
I don't
seems to
see
me.
that happening.
But I think you make an
So,
excellent point.
I think we need to start thinking about this from a 3-year down the road standpoint.
You make an excellent point, because I think when you get to town meeting and you're thinking about one issue, and this is a big issue. There's a lot of emotional connection to this. There's a lot of family members there. But if you see the whole picture, as we see it, it might look different when you start thinking about what the tax consequences could be. And I do think you're right, as part of our responsibility.
David?
Yeah, just to piggyback what everybody's saying, I know the board wants to continue operations of the facility, and I don't know if we can, but we probably should encourage them to look at optional funding sources right now instead of the town. Because, I think that they should go out and try to find some other means of capital instead of looking to us all the time for it. And if it's possible, that'd be great, but I encourage them to sign this.
My biggest concern is we've put in $4.5 million of extra money. So my understanding was they had $2 million left, but at $200,000+ a month, that's going to make it to the end of the year a little bit further, but not a whole year.
Oh, right, yeah. Probably, right. The last time we talked it through with them, I think we said probably about the end of the calendar year. I think that's about what we kind
And the
of
calendar beginning of
estimated.
next year, yeah.
So I'm concerned. First of all, if we got to come up with an extra $2 million, I'm not sure where we are in free cash. Let's hope it's at least 3, if not 5. But we're going to have to cut back unless it goes over 5. And we may get lucky. But I guess I'm looking to you for that July report, because if not, I'm going to seriously ask the FinCom whether we should call an emergency town meeting in September, because spending money in October, not knowing if we got to come up with another $2 million in December, gets me nervous. Not just for the fact that the other $2 million or $2.5 million adds $200 more. And to Andy's point of view, that's $200 on top of the tax rate. This excess levy capacity, people forget that it's not free. I keep hearing people say, well, we can use the excess levy capacity and it won't hurt us. It dang surely will hurt, because it's coming out of our pocket. The excess, if we use up excess levy capacity, we're going to increase the tax burden. If we took the $5 million in excess levy capacity to apply it towards the high school, that's still $400, to Andy's point, that every homeowner is going to get hit with. So we got to be careful. And we all want Countryside to win, but we got to be realistic. And I think it's going to come back to what I said 2 years ago.
15 people.
How much is it worth to have a top quality senior center here in Milford? Because it's up to town meeting to decide. If they want to vote, I think a permanent tax increase of $250, and I say permanent hoping it doesn't get worse. Michael?
I have a question regarding your employee retention tax credit that you mentioned. Does Countryside file income tax return? Because this is a tax credit. And if they do file income tax returns, I assume, given their performance the last few years, that they've got a ton of tax loss carryforwards already.
It might be a refundable credit though, Mike. Zach?
It's not, it's just a payroll credit.
It's a payroll credit,
It
yeah.
has nothing to do with income taxes.
Right, right.
It's
Tax
just,
credit.
yeah, it's a payroll tax credit. It's keeping people on the payroll.
So who gets the credit?
It's cash. The credit is a, in the form of money, in the form of a check. It's not a tax credit, but it's a check.
My understanding from when they came before us before was that it's 1.6 million in cash coming to us that they could use to stay ahead of
Yeah,
the
just a little
expenses.
flavor of that. We talked about how long it takes. The company that I previously worked for filed for it again, and they still haven't received it. So it's a long.
It's at least a year,
Yeah, it's
from
a-
my experience.
Well, but my point is, if the burn rate is 200,000+ a month and ain't getting better,
It's 267.
then we're gonna need more money.
No. Don't use the word need and have to. That's one thing I want to say.
Or
was-
action. Some
We need action, because you kept saying, Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to correct you, but you kept saying, we have to come up with $2 million. We have to, no, we don't. And I would think that they would have wanted to come before our full committee almost every single month to update us, to keep us engaged, to keep us wanting to do it, but they don't seem to want to come in. And if I were them, I'd ask to come in every single month to keep us, hey, look at what we're doing. They're not doing that. I said 9 months ago exactly where David is. I said, I want you to guarantee me that you are going to at least pursue a sale. We were all here. David, you sat right next to me, and I made him say it. They haven't done it. This is a sinking ship, and they're going to wait till the last minute at the October meeting and ask us for $2 million? No. We don't have to give them $2 million.
And Chris, it doesn't have to be a sale. It needs to be action. Because if we're gonna try and sell the place and get 3-4 million for it,
Yep.
I'd be one of the people who'd say, keep the land and just shut the place down. if you have to.
Absolutely. Yep.
So.
Keep it as is or keep it?
No.
Okay. I want to be clear.
Put a school on it, put a
You could
DPW on it,
sell a
whatever.
business to somebody,
That's,
but if you're only gonna get, I've heard numbers like 3-4 million. Now, if you get 10 or 11,
different story.
whole different game. But if it's gonna be $2 or $3 million, Bobby,
I grow frustrated with my patients here that raising your hand to be recognized by the chairman before you speak seems to have fallen by the wayside, but nonetheless, I don't want to design it here because here again, you get into things that you've heard, and we've heard much higher numbers for the sale of the property. But to answer to your question, Brant, and I've given this some long, hard thought, I think it would be appropriate if your subcommittee met as a subcommittee, because I find too often when we meet with outside departments, when we get together, there are a lot of distractions. There are a lot of suggestions, there are a lot of facts, and we keep talking and hashing things around. I think we owe it to the Finance Committee to meet as a subcommittee and develop a decision, or at least several decisions. What are we going to do? We, in my view, we have enough facts now to make some decisions. But I prefer that we do that as a subcommittee before we meet with anybody else. That's just my train of
no,
thought.
Bobby, I thought I heard that they're calling for a subcommittee meeting in July.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah,
The
but
idea-
that was with, excuse me, that was with the board of the Countryside.
Oh, you're saying just the subcommittee?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay. I didn't know.
To avoid the distractions, Al.
Okay,
And get-
well,
Yeah, I think there's merit to that.
I think we could meet just as a subcommittee either before or after they come in, but I agree with you with the concept that we should have a separate time where we're just talking.
Right.
now I understand.
Yeah, so that we, when you got 16, 18, 20 people in a room, you lose focus.
Bobby, we've always supported our subcommittee chairs. So to me, Brant, you got the ball.
Yep.
If you want to have a meeting before the meeting,
Yes,
it's up to the subcommittee to decide.
correct. Well, he asked for people's opinion, that's all, just.
Yeah,
giving that.
absolutely.
I think it's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Because you should go into a meeting with Countryside with a uniform
Exactly,
approach. A
exactly.
unified approach. Cool. Anything else?
Nope.
Any other subcommittee reports? Then I think it's time to turn the meeting over to the head of the nomination committee.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we turn the chairmanship over to the subcommittee, nomination subcommittee chair.
Second.
Mike Nicholson seconded. All in favor? Passed. All yours, Chris.
All right, yearly elections. We had submissions for offices. The first office up for is chairman. I had one nomination for Al. If there are any other nominations, I'll be open to them now.
Please.
If not, I am closing nominations, and I will cast one vote for Al for chairman. Next office, vice chairman. I have a nomination of Brant. Are there any other nominations at this time? Hearing no other nominations, I cast one vote for Brant for vice chairman. Can you do executive board?
Sure. Okay, for the executive committee, there's 5 people. That includes the chairman, the vice chairman, and 3 other members of the board, the finance, of the finance committee. 3 people that we have are Mike Nicholson, Carly Kernan, and Chris Moran. Are there any other nominations for the executive committee? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations for executive committee members and cast one vote for Chris Moran, Mike Nicholson, and Carly Kiernan.
All right, that closes out elections. Congratulations to all of you guys. Turn the chairman back to,
Shouldn't we just do the one slate as everybody votes?
I was going to say,
Oh.
we should all.
yeah. I
To
thought
approve your
Oh,
nominations.
yes. So I'd like to take a vote, I'd like to take a motion to accept the nominations and votes for the above offices of chairman, vice chairman, and executive board.
I'll second that.
No,
I can't second.
you make a motion, David?
I thought we were for this one.
Oh, did I?
I thought you did.
Oh, did I made the motion. Okay, then David
Make that
second.
motion since
Sorry.
he's on the
All right,
list.
I will,
That's
all
why I
right,
didn't-
I will make the motion to nominate, to elect the slate of officers as presented with Al Carrier as chairman, Brant Hornberger as vice chairman, the executive committee of Mike Nicholson, Carly Kiernan, and Chris Moran. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Sorry.
Question on
All
the
those in
exec-
favor?
Question on the executive committee, the FinCom chairman is the chairman of that committee, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that name is there, Tom.
So the motion has been moved and seconded.
All those in favor? Turn the meeting back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, one other piece of business that we need to address today is the executive committee having the authority to conduct normal business for the in the FinCom's name over the summer till the September meeting. Motion?
Motion.
Second? Andy Lazat seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up before we close the meeting?
Who seconded that, Andy?
Motion? Carly makes a motion to close the meeting, to adjourn the meeting. Grant seconds it. Motion to adjourn is not debatable. All in favor? Done.
Thank
See you
you.
in the fall in September.